In hip-hop, few names carry the emotional weight that Big Pun's does. His rise, his impact, and his tragic passing left a mark that still echoes through the culture today. But in recent years, that legacy has been pulled back into public debate, not because of Pun himself, but because of the people who continue to speak in his name. Fat Joe, Pun's longtime friend and collaborator. Liza Rios, Pun's widow, who's fought for years to protect his name and his family's rights. And now, somehow, 6ix9ine, one of the most controversial figures in modern rap, has inserted himself into the conversation, reigniting old wounds and exposing new tensions. This isn't a story about clout. It's a story about loyalty, legacy, and what happens when personal history collides with public perception. To understand the present, we have to go back to the beginning, to the Bronx, to the early 90s. Christopher Rios, better known as Big Pun, wasn't just another rapper from New York. He was a lyrical powerhouse, the first Latino solo rapper to go platinum. His 1998 debut album, Capital Punishment, became a benchmark in East Coast hip-hop, showcasing technical brilliance and cultural pride. Pun wasn't just representing himself, he was representing an entire generation of Puerto Rican and Latino youth who saw themselves in him. He brought new life to the sound of New York, mixing speed, rhythm, and storytelling in a way that made him both respected and feared on the mic. But as fast as Pun rose, his health began to decline. Behind the fame, he was battling serious issues, physical, emotional, and financial. Then, in 2000, tragedy struck. At only 28 years old, Big Pun passed away suddenly from heart failure. His death left a void in hip-hop, and in the lives of everyone close to him. Fat Joe, who had helped introduce Pun to the industry, was among the most visibly shaken. But what came next would create one of the longest, most painful disputes in hip-hop's history. After Pun's passing, the question of his estate, his music, royalties, and legacy became complicated. Liza Rios, his wife, claimed that despite Pun's success, his family received little to no financial support after his death. In several interviews, she spoke about living in difficult conditions while others benefited from Pun's work. Fat Joe, meanwhile, maintained that he had done what he could. He expressed love for Pun and his family, saying he felt betrayed by the accusations. What began as private pain turned into a public feud. In 2005, Liza Rios filed a lawsuit against Fat Joe, claiming she was owed royalties from Pun's catalog. Years later, the lawsuit was reportedly settled out of court. But even then, the tension never truly disappeared. Every time Fat Joe mentioned Pun's name publicly, there was a sense of unease. For many fans, the situation remained unclear. Was this about money, loyalty, or something deeper? As time went on, the story faded from mainstream attention. Fat Joe rebuilt his career, releasing hits like Lean Back and later All the Way Up, reminding people of his staying power in the industry. Liza Rios, meanwhile, focused on preserving Pun's legacy. She continued to speak at events, share memories, and ensure her husband's contributions weren't forgotten. But underneath that silence was unresolved pain. Interviews over the years showed glimpses of raw emotion, Liza expressing hurt and disappointment, Joe expressing sadness and confusion. Both seemed to believe they were right. Both seemed to carry wounds that time hadn't healed. Then, in 2023, a new voice stepped in, one that nobody expected. 6ix9ine, one of hip-hop's most polarizing figures, made headlines again, this time not for his own drama, but for resurfacing the story of Big Pun and Fat Joe. In a viral video, 6ix9ine accused Fat Joe of exploiting Pun's legacy and failing his family. He went further, claiming that Liza Rios had been treated unfairly and that he wanted to help her financially. To some, it looked like a genuine act of compassion. To others, it was pure provocation. 6ix9ine's history of public feuds, trolling, and self-promotion made people question his motives. Was he truly standing up for Big Pun's family, or using the situation to take shots at an established figure like Fat Joe? Within hours, the hip-hop community exploded with opinions. Some defended Fat Joe, calling him one of the most respected veterans in the game. Others said that Liza's struggles were real, and that maybe it was time people listened to her side. Once again, the ghost of Big Pun became the center of controversy, nearly 25 years after his death. When Fat Joe finally responded, his tone was calm but firm. He said he'd always loved Pun and his family. He insisted that the rumors were false and that people were using his name for attention. He also said that real conversations should happen privately, not on the internet. That response reminded people why Fat Joe has lasted so long in the industry. He knows how to handle conflict with composure. But for many, the issue wasn't about online drama. It was about truth and transparency. Was everything handled fairly after Pun's death? Did Liza Rios and the family get what they deserved? Or was this another case of the music industry failing its own? Those questions lingered long after the post stopped trending.
Kanye West isn't just talking. He's scared. Reports and rumors online are claiming that Kanye believes powerful people are after him. He's said to have sent secret videos and messages to conservative commentator Candace Owens, just in case something happens to him. Allegedly, he told her that if he ever goes missing or something goes wrong, she should release everything. Imagine being that paranoid, or maybe that aware, that you start preparing for the worst. Fans online are saying this is deeper than anyone thought. Keep watching, because the more we go into this, the more names start popping up, and they're big ones. Candace Owens, who's been one of Kanye's few public allies, has hinted that she's seen disturbing messages and that Kanye truly believes his life is in danger. Whether you believe Kanye is right or not, one thing's for sure, he doesn't trust many people anymore, not even people he used to call family. That's when things get messy, because the moment Kanye mentioned the Kardashians, everything took a turn. The man who once shared a home and kids with Kim Kardashian now seems convinced that there's a dark side behind all that glam. And trust me, fans are paying attention. You see, Kanye's been open about feeling betrayed and trapped for years. He once said the industry was trying to control him, and many people brushed it off as one of his rants. But now, when he says he's fearing for his life, suddenly everyone is listening. And when Candace Owens steps in and says, "I have the messages," that's when things get real. Viewers are asking, who exactly is Kanye afraid of? Is it the same people that have kept certain secrets buried in Hollywood for years? Don't go anywhere, because this is just getting started. Then we have Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs, another name that used to mean power and success. But now, it's a name being dragged into one of the most controversial legal storms the industry has seen in a long time. Rumors and lawsuits, old stories resurfacing, and people from the past suddenly speaking up. Diddy, who once seemed untouchable, is now reportedly begging for support, calling on friends and old connections to stand by him. But here's where it gets crazy. Kanye isn't one of those people anymore. Their friendship? Gone. Completely cold. There was a time when Kanye and Diddy were seen together, showing love and support for each other. But ever since all these claims started coming up, it's like that friendship never existed. No comments, no appearances, no statements of support, nothing. And that silence speaks volumes. Now, what about the Kardashians? Oh, family, this is where it gets even messier. Kanye has publicly said more than once that he wants nothing to do with their world anymore. He claims he saw things that made him uncomfortable, things that made him feel like he was being controlled. Fans online are connecting dots, saying maybe that's why he's been trying to distance himself from them completely.
Spears, who's known for his stand-up comedy and wild impressions, decided to take another jab during an interview. He brought up Ice Cube, yes, that Ice Cube, the man who went from NWA to blockbuster movies to building his own sports league. Aries claimed that Cube hasn't been the same since his music days, saying he's too commercial now, too Hollywood, and even joked that Cube doesn't stand on what he used to rap about. Now that right there was enough to set social media on fire. Because if you know Ice Cube, you know he doesn't play about his legacy or his respect. The man built his empire from scratch, coming straight from Compton. And to have someone clown him for making power moves, well, that's a dangerous move. It didn't take long before the clip went viral. People were tagging Cube left and right, asking him to respond. But before Ice Cube even had the chance, guess who stepped in? 50 Cent. And when 50 speaks, you already know it's not going to be quiet or polite. He came out swinging, posting online that Aries Spears better watch his mouth when he talks about Cube. 50 basically reminded everyone that Ice Cube paved the way for so many artists and actors, and disrespecting him was like disrespecting the foundation of hip-hop itself. And when 50 says something like that, the internet listens. But here's the thing, Arias didn't back down. He fired back saying that 50 Cent is just defending his Hollywood buddies. He said people can't take a joke anymore, that he's just speaking truth about how fake the industry is. But at this point, it wasn't about jokes anymore. 50 Cent clapped back again saying, ain't nobody joking when they mention legends like Cube. That man earned his respect. Keep it cute before you end up regretting it. And that's when people started realizing, oh yeah, this just got real. Now, what makes this even crazier is that Ari Spears has a history of getting himself into drama. Remember when he went at Lizzo for no reason, calling her out in that wild interview that had the whole internet dragging him? Or the time he got into it with Tiffany Haddish over their old sketch that resurfaced and brought a wave of controversy. Yeah, Aries has a way of stirring the pot and then acting surprised when it boils over. So when he decided to come for Ice Cube, someone who's loved, respected, and feared in the industry, people knew he might have finally met his match. Meanwhile, Ice Cube stayed silent for a minute, which actually made things even more intense. Because when Cube doesn't talk, that usually means he's watching, waiting, and letting the noise grow. People online started speculating, saying Cube's the type of man who handles things quietly but effectively. Some fans even joke that Aries might want to stay off the grid for a while because Cube doesn't play when it comes to his name. Tony talks about how intense it was at the hospital Marymaline, where 50 Cent was rushed for life-saving treatment. The hospital was crowded with people they knew, and yet 50 didn't want to see anyone. Tony later asked him why, and 50 explained that he didn't want anyone to see him in weakness. At that moment, it wasn't about toughness or pride, it was about survival. He was dealing with some of the most dangerous people in the streets at the time, including Preem and his crew, and showing vulnerability could have been deadly. It's hard to imagine what it must have been like to survive 9 gunshot wounds and face reality immediately afterward. But that's exactly what 50 did. Tony also shares insight into 50 Cent's family, especially his grandmother, a church lady who instilled discipline and values, and his grandfather, who represented the strong, quiet side of 50's upbringing. The combination of both sides shaped the man who would go on to dominate hip-hop. Tony recalls moments with 50's grandfather that left a lasting impression, teaching them lessons about responsibility, courage, and facing life's challenges head-on. That day, the gravity of the situation hit everyone around them, but 50 Cent came back stronger, more determined, and more strategic than ever. After recovering, 50 Cent didn't let fear control him. Tony mentions how he always saw 50 strapped up with a vest, ready for anything, not caring who he ran into. That's the level of dedication and caution it takes when someone has survived something as serious as being shot 9 times. And it wasn't just about self-preservation. It was a statement to everyone watching that 50 Cent was not someone to be underestimated, even after almost dying. The story of 50 Cent isn't just about surviving violence. It's also about making the right moves in music and business. Tony talks about being in the studio during the recording of Get Rich or Die Tryin', working with Dr. Dre and Eminem, and witnessing the creation of music that would define a generation. Tony remembers how meticulous Dr. Dre was, smoking, experimenting, and layering beats, while 50 played tracks like Wangsta, carefully crafting hits that would dominate the charts. Eminem brought his own level of precision, focusing on details that many would never notice. Tony recalls how even songs that 50 didn't initially believe in, like Many Men, became some of the hardest-hitting records of his career. Tony emphasizes the importance of mentors and cosigns in 50 Cent's journey. From Dr. Dre and Eminem to G-Unit and other artists like D12 and Griselda, these endorsements help 50 navigate the music industry and establish credibility. Tony admits that without these connections, it would have been much harder for 50 Cent to rise to superstardom. These were people who not only recognized his talent, but also supported him through the toughest moments, including surviving a near-death situation and street conflicts. Tony stresses the lesson he learned: never forget the people who put you on. They are the ones who gave you a chance when no one else would. The story also highlights loyalty. Tony reflects on personal experiences, how he always remembered the people who helped him and never turned his back on them, no matter how many years had passed. The rap game and street life are unpredictable, but respect and loyalty are constants. Even when critics or rivals tried to downplay 50 Cent's influence, Tony knew that his success was built on hard work, support from key players, and a relentless drive to survive and thrive. Tony also shares some behind-the-scenes moments that fans rarely hear about, like discussions about hit records and how certain tracks were crafted in the studio. He talks about the energy in the room with Dr. Dre and Eminem, how they listened to every beat, every sound, and how those small details turned songs into classics. Tony points out that even when some songs seem slow or unconventional, they had potential for greatness. This is the story of not just surviving physically, but surviving creatively and building a legacy that would last decades. The impact of that shooting and 50 Cent's resilience goes beyond music. It shaped how he approached business, relationships, and even media appearances. Tony reflects on moments where he had to stay humble, stay grateful, and never bite the hand that helped him rise. From television appearances to interviews and partnerships, every opportunity had lessons about respect, timing, and trust. Fans often forget that the path to greatness includes those early struggles, dangerous moments, and the mentors who helped guide the way. Tony's reflections also give insight into the culture of New York and the streets at that time. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and survival depended on being smart, loyal, and fearless. 50 Cent's experience, surviving 9 gunshots, wasn't just a headline. It was a defining moment that shaped every choice he made afterward, from music to personal safety. Tony shares how witnessing these events up close taught him invaluable lessons about courage, perseverance, and trust. He also touches on the human side of 50 Cent beyond the public persona. Despite being a superstar, he faced fear, vulnerability, and the weight of responsibility. Tony emphasizes that fans often see the final product, the albums, the music videos, the empire, but they rarely understand the personal cost, the moments of doubt, and the physical danger he survived. The story of 50 Cent's shooting is a reminder that true strength isn't just about talent. It's about resilience, heart, and the people who have your back when it matters most. Tony Ayo's account reminds us why loyalty, gratitude, and mentorship are so crucial. Whether it was Dr. Dre, Eminem, G-Unit, or the family members in 50 Cent's life, these people shaped his journey and ensured that even after surviving life-threatening violence, he could still rise and dominate the industry. And every detail, every memory, every lesson he shares with fans is a testament to that journey. It's a story of survival, brotherhood, and learning the hard way that respect and relationships are everything. So stay with us until the end of this video because we're going to dive even deeper into 50 Cent's recovery, how it influenced his music, and how Tony Ayo, along with other G-Unit members like Lloyd Banks and Young Buck, played critical roles in keeping the legacy alive. From surviving bullets to making hits, this is the full story that every fan needs to hear. Don't skip a second. Every moment matters, and Tony's reflections are the closest you'll get to the truth behind that life-changing day. Tony Ayo also remembers the moments after 50 Cent returned home from the hospital. Even though he had survived 9 gunshots, 50 didn't slow down. He was strapped up, always ready, and constantly aware of the streets and his enemies. Tony emphasizes that this was the real 50 Cent, the one who understood danger but also had the heart and mind to turn tragedy into opportunity. It wasn't just about surviving bullets, it was about learning from the experience and using it to fuel his drive in music, business, and life. Tony and the rest of G-Unit, Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and the others watched as 50 transformed almost overnight. The man who had been almost killed became a force of nature in the rap game, and nobody could ignore him. One of the biggest lessons Tony shares is about never forgetting the people who helped you along the way. He talks about the importance of Dr. Dre and Eminem, who not only recognized 50 Cent's talent, but also invested time and resources to help him succeed. Tony recalls being in the studio with Dre and Eminem and seeing how meticulous they were. Dr. Dre's attention to detail, the way he layered beats, and his ability to make every track sound perfect were things that Tony and 50 learned from firsthand. Eminem added a level of creativity and precision that pushed 50 to his best. Tony says that being in those rooms was like watching magic happen, and it taught him lessons about professionalism and dedication that he carries to this day. Tony Ayo also dives into the dynamics within G-Unit. He highlights how Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and himself were not just teammates, they were family. They learned how to support each other, watch each other's backs, and make decisions that would protect the group and their careers. He talks about the early days of G-Unit, the challenges they faced, and the risks they took in the streets and in the music industry. Every move mattered, because one mistake could cost them everything. This is why Tony emphasizes loyalty so much. It's not just a word, it's a survival tool, a guiding principle that shaped how they approached every business deal, every track, and every public appearance. Tony shares a story about the creation of the hit record Wanksta. He recalls how 50 Cent played the track for him and asked for his thoughts. Tony admits he didn't initially know if it would be a hit, but 50 had a vision. That vision, combined with the guidance of Dr. Dre and Eminem, turned a song that could have been overlooked into an iconic track that defined 50 Cent's career. Tony points out that it wasn't luck, it was preparation, knowledge of the streets, and an understanding of what people wanted to hear. That's a big reason why 50 Cent rose so quickly, even after facing life-threatening danger. Another key moment Tony highlights is the rise of G-Unit as a brand. He talks about how the group's success wasn't just about music, it was about strategy. From album releases to marketing, collaborations, and building a loyal fan base, every step was carefully planned. Tony mentions how they watched other groups fail and learned from their mistakes. Being part of G-Unit meant being part of a team that understood the value of credibility, street respect, and professionalism. That combination made 50 Cent and G-Unit almost untouchable in their prime. Tony also reflects on the importance of remembering your roots. Despite all the fame and money, 50 Cent never forgot the streets he came from, or the people who were there for him when things got tough. Tony recalls moments when 50 would give back quietly, help friends in need, and stay humble despite enormous success. Tony says this humility is part of what separates legends from everyone else. Fans may focus on the glitz and glamour, but the real story is the respect earned through hard work, loyalty, and the ability to survive and thrive under pressure. Throughout all these experiences, Tony notes the lasting lessons about accountability. He talks about how 50 Cent's shooting taught everyone in G-Unit the importance of making smart decisions, understanding consequences, and protecting yourself. The streets and the music industry are unforgiving, and every misstep can be amplified. Tony stresses that these lessons aren't just for celebrities. They're universal lessons about life, trust.
Tony also shares insights about working with Dr. Dre and Eminem in the studio. He recalls late nights, experimenting with sounds, layering instruments, and perfecting lyrics. Tony remembers how Dr. Dre would constantly push them to think bigger, to notice details that most people would miss, and to strive for excellence. Eminem, with his analytical approach, forced them to consider structure, rhythm, and storytelling in a way that elevated 50 Cent's music to a level few could reach. Tony says that being a part of those sessions was life-changing because it taught him how dedication, collaboration, and persistence create something timeless. Finally, Tony talks about how these experiences shaped his perspective on fame, money, and respect. He emphasizes that success isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who helps you get there, how you handle adversity, and how you treat the people around you. The story of 50 Cent being shot 9 times, recovering and rising to superstardom, is more than a tale of survival. It's a lesson in resilience, loyalty, and strategy. Tony's reflections show that true success is about character, preparation, and the relationships you maintain along the way. So stay with us until the very end of this video because we're about to go even deeper into 50 Cent's recovery, the rise of G-Unit, and the untold stories of Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, and Young Buck. From the streets of New York to the recording studios with Dr. Dre and Eminem, every moment is full of lessons, drama, and triumph. Don't miss a second, every detail matters, and this is the story that fans have been waiting to hear.
Trying to act tough, he became a target. Some inmates wanted to earn respect by testing him. Others wanted revenge for perceived slights against the Harris family name, and a few just wanted to make an example out of him. King's situation